All right, what's going on, everybody? Glad to be back. Took a week off. Life gets in the way. You know how that thing goes. But we are back live in effect, Conscious Approach on YouTube. Shouts out to everybody for checking us out. Shouts out to everybody in advance who will, follow along with us on the channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave those comments. We certainly appreciate it. Before we get things kicked off, as always, check us out: Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. As we continue to grow this community out, we want to be available in any and all places possible. And as I always like to say, as someone who does not subscribe to 10% of the content that he consumes, I understand fully the value of your digital currency. So I know, or rather, we know, that if you even bother to make the effort to subscribe to our channel, it means that you're getting enough value out of it to feel like it's necessary. So we appreciate that. To everybody who has already made that leap, thank you very much. And in advance to anybody who will make that leap in the future, thank you very much. If this is your first time checking us out, JV wins, Dogon SS, man. This is how we like to rock and roll. Just kicking around some logical content, conversing over some interesting topics and, getting folks taking place with some interesting conversations. So, with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Got several interesting topics to talk about tonight. The first one that we are going to talk about is an individual who, despite his immense popularity, is not at the moment a friend of the channel. That being Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart, despite how hugely popular he is, we haven't really found that many avenues with which to use sound bites from him to talk about interesting topics in the world of culture and society. But this is one of them. So if this is any indication, then perhaps at some point in the near future, he will become a friend of the channel. But thus far, Mr. Hart is not a friend of the channel. However, I did find this piece of video interesting. So Kevin Hart, he's got a new stand-up special on Netflix. It's called Act My Age or Acting My Age or something like that. And he's now doing press in promotion of his new stand-up special. Now, I don't know if this particular interview is a part of the promotion of that stand-up special or if it's all just a coincidence. I'm not exactly sure. But this was interesting video because this woman here on this show attempted to ask Kevin Hart somewhat of a trap question, in my opinion. Would he prefer a gay son or a thought daughter? And Kevin Hart's response to that question I found to be pretty interesting. So let's listen to Kevin Hart navigate this woman's trap question, and then we'll discuss how we feel about it on the back end.
Would you rather have a gay son or a thought daughter?
I would rather have two healthy kids. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Two healthy children. And the fact that you have to put them in those categories says a lot about who you are.
Oh, right? No, don't you dare.
I'm just telling you, I think the real problem is in the thinker, not the answerer. The thinker. Maybe you should just ponder on that for a second.
Which do you give less of a fuck about, gay rights or women's rights?
Well, first and foremost, rights are rights. You should care about them all. Everybody has a voice and everybody deserves to be heard. What I want to do is be a part of the change that the world desperately deserves and hopefully get it to a point where we're all on the same accord.
This guy doing unbelievable. I guess I need a new cooler system. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Okay, so very diplomatic of him in the way that he answered that question. Did you buy any of what he was selling there?
No, I'm not buying it. Now, granted, his responses were, as you say, he it was a political answer. He's being correct there. Not burning any bridges. If anything, he's building bridges with that one. So. I take that more of a, I thought this was going to be, more of a real question, but this seemed to be a layup for him. So I would take this for promo for his comedy stuff. because this came off as a skit, more of a skit than an actual question. However, this is unfortunately a conversational piece that does go along and make its rounds on social media. And there's been times where I'm scrolling and I come across this question where they're asking this literal question of thought daughter or gay son. And then there's this whole the person that actually got asked the question actually answered it. And now there's this whole debate going on in the comment section. And the way I look at it is engagement farming, from these creators, basically just asking these hot pointed questions that, of course, whatever you answer, if you decide to answer honestly, is going to get you in hot water.
It's going to be the wrong answer.
It's going to be the wrong answer, of course. And then there's going to be the peanut gallery, typing away in the comment section, and then thus the engagement is born. So then you'll see the shares go up, the bookmarks, the likes, the comments. And so I always looked at it as a situation of why are we doing this? And unfortunately, man, I've noticed it in our community. I don't really see this question being asked in other communities. This ultimatum. And so I'm not a fan of the question. And so Kevin Hart himself, the way that he chose to respond in this context, it gives the impression of, hey, I don't care for the question either. Because at the end of the day, what takes precedent over all of that is what he said is, hey man, you just want a healthy baby. And all that other stuff, is you don't want to wish anything, around that topic. So you don't want to say one thing, one direction, one thing in the other, man. It's best to just stay away from that. And the best way to do it is to give an answer that, because who says, man, there's no gun to nobody's head. So I don't have to answer this. So I choose to give my answer. And I think that's what's best when anybody asks you any of these absurd ultimatum questions. To me, it's like some weird self-fulfilling prophecy for you to even get into the mindset of answering something like that. So just back out and abort. So I'm with Kevin on this one. As politically as he came off in that, but that's an answer I would have given. But what are your thoughts, bro, on Kevin Hart getting pressed by this young lady here, asking about whether would you have a thought daughter or a gay son? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, it was a trap. It was a trap question, and I don't know if it was a bit or not. If it was, then that kind of takes the air out of the steam of any sort of societal observation that you can gather from the exchange. But if it wasn't a bit and she was legit asking that question because it's an internet meme-ish thing to do, first of all, I agree with you that it's an internet trollish conversation starter. So I do think it serves that purpose first and foremost, in that a question like that is going to get people talking, and then it just boosts your algorithm. It boosts your channel into the algorithms of the internet, because then you become trending.
Mm-hmm.
So it serves that purpose. But furthermore, Kevin Hart being in the position that he's in, it does him no service if there was an honest answer to that question for him to answer it honestly.
Exactly.
Suggested, no matter which question he answers, if he goes one way or the other, he's going to be alienating a large group of people who likely comprise a decent percentage of his fan base.
Mm-hmm.
So from the purpose of career self-preservation, it does not behoove him to answer the question, because I'm pretty sure he has a lot of gay fans, and I'm pretty sure he has a lot of women who are fans who are for the streets. You don't want to turn any of your fans away. That is ends in his pocket, and it's notoriety, it's social cachet, and it's also actual physical currency.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to turn your back on any of those various revenue streams, so it's best to just be neutral. But I will say this: trust and believe. As neutral as Kevin Hart is, and as tactful as he approached answering that question, make no mistake about it. In his honest heart of hearts, he does have a preference in terms of that question. I think most of us do. I think in private, he may answer that question honestly because every single person walking on this earth does have preferences when it comes to family values.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just because you have preferences when it comes to family values doesn't mean that if those preferences aren't met, it's a hard stop on life. You know, like, let's say you don't want a thought daughter, but your daughter ends up, curating a career for herself on OnlyFans. Are you going to turn your back on your daughter? I would assume no. Like, that's your child. You're going to make the best of the situation. Try to be as understanding as possible and still be as involved a parent in your child's life as possible, despite the fact that that particular preference of yours wasn't met. So if your preferences are violated, it isn't necessarily a hard stop on life, but everybody has preferences. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that Kevin Hart, the private individual, and not Kevin Hart, the superstar stand-up comedian entertainer, does have an inkling one way or the other when it comes to answering that question.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that in today's current society, you can no longer be honest when it comes to preferences with family values. You have to play it one way. You either have to be neutral and don't answer the question,
Mm-hmm.
or you have to just be an ultimate ally of everything and say everything is great. Because because it does do you a disservice to
Mm-hmm.
be honest and address what your actual preferences are. But I hope anybody who does believe that this was not a bit and was in fact a legitimate interview isn't bamboozled into believing that those are Kevin Hart's true feelings, because I can assure you they are not. Just the same as everybody watching this video or everybody walking around on planet Earth does have specific preferences when it comes to family values, he's no different. He's just tactful and smart enough to know that you can't publicly address them. I don't think that that's necessarily the best thing in the world, but that is the way that the world is presently constructed. So if you want to have a viable career and not alienate too many people, best to play ball, because within this particular context, honesty is not the best policy.
Yeah, I hear that, and I also think it's a trap because a lot of people, especially people that have family, you know, values and stuff like that, they don't want either. So then the weird part about the question is you're forced to pick one. And my thing was you shouldn't feel obligated to give an answer to a troll who's asking you a troll question.
Yeah.
And so, so it's a double-edged sword question. It's like, catch this double-edged sword. And it's like, well, why do I have to catch the sword, period? I choose not to catch the sword. Throw that at other people. But I'm not catching that sword, and I'm not having that in my realm of possibilities of thoughts or things that I'm gonna look out for my family. Like I'm not bringing that witchcraft into my home. Don't ask me no spell type question like that. That's the whole point, and that content creation has gotten into this space, and it's only going to get worse, where they're going to continue to do these troll type questions or whatever, and the internet feels obligated to answer.
It's interesting that you say that. Remember back in the day, those Vine videos,
Mm-hmm.
back when Vine was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
like that. I feel like that's what content creation has become.
Mm-hmm.
It's become one continuous loop of Vine videos. Because back when we used to see those skit videos, we knew the absurdity of them, and we can
Mm-hmm.
dismiss them as being absurd, but
Mm-hmm.
we would just look at them as entertainment that went viral.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, because content is king and streamers are the new celebrities, especially in this country, that kind of environment has traversed over into legitimate interview settings where you're asking people questions and
It's
stuff.
insane.
It's weird. It's weird. So like now we can be legitimately watching an actual interview involving people with credibility in the world.
Yeah.
And it's an actual expose in trolling behavior.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because the bar has been lowered that much.
Yes. And we also have this area in content creation where the whole interview in and of itself is completely satire, where there's nobody being serious at all. The person asking a question, nor the person that's actually answering. Some of them are pretty good. I can get down with some of it, but others are just swings and misses. And so yeah, I'm not a fan of people asking people ultimatum questions like that. I just, and that's also in normal everyday life too, man. Because you'll especially when y'all, in the talking phase, y'all figuring each other out or whatever, the vetting process. And there's been times I've been asked these questions, not this in particular, but these ultimatum questions where neither way I win. And I go, well, I choose not to answer those. And I'll give my response of, there's other possibilities in life, other than this scenario. And, I choose not to. Or if I choose to answer, I'll just take the high road. Like he said, I just want a healthy child. How about that? So let's start there. And so I think it's just a lesson in life, man, that people that want to control and manipulate you. They'll ask you these questions, and they'll most likely give you an ultimatum type of scenario, or if you got to choose, room A or room B. And for the most part, man, you don't have to choose either one of those rooms. And you have the right to say no. You don't have to answer, especially these hypotheticals. I'm not going down these You know how many times I've gotten arguments in my life, with my significant others at the time, because we're having hypothetical conversations, and I'm answering either honestly or I try not to be too honest, and I skate around it, and and then an argument ensues anyway. So that's when I realized, like, I'm not playing these little games. So it could be with an interview, or I'm talking to somebody, interpersonally. I'm not doing it. So all in all, I just think that the master class in handling this, and you don't have to be answer it in a comedic tune like Kevin Hart did there, but I think it's just best to take the high road. And if the question makes you uncomfortable, you shouldn't feel obligated to answer.
I agree. I think multiple things can be true at the same time. It is an aspect of pinning people into a corner and forcing them into a bucket, because no matter which way you answer the question, people are going to cast aspersions on your character based upon your response, because that response is going to fly in the face of somebody somewhere.
Yes.
And so it's best to not participate. So that is true. But then what is also true is, in this day and age, you can't actually express your true feelings when it comes to family values preferences. Because then you're also upsetting people, unfortunately, even though it's just your honest preferences, and people are entitled to those, whether you like it or not. People are entitled to that, and the vast majority of humans, I believe, have them. But we've reached a point in which you can't actually express them. But the ultimatum dynamic, you're 100% on the money with that. And I feel like this is just a societal dynamic in general. It's not just with stuff like this. We see it with sports as well. Do you think this player is the GOAT, or do you think this player is the GOAT? And if you answer this, it means you don't like the other player.
Right.
Stupid stuff like that. When the answer is always matters of gray. Life is nuanced. I said that 1,000 times. The answer is never black and white. The answer is always somewhere in the middle. But extremism is the going rate these days. You have to be dug in on one aisle or the other. And it's absurd. That's what's ruined politics. It's what's ruining sports. And it's what's ruining general social discourse at large. So I commend, well, commend is a strong word, but I don't blame him for answering the question in the centrist way that he did. I would have done the same thing. It's just, it's not worth the trouble. It's not worth the hassle of speaking your preferences into the atmosphere. You should just kind of keep those close to the vest and play things neutral. And if you don't like the idea that people aren't being genuine with their responses, then I would suggest that you take a step back and look at the way that we've gotten to this point in the world where it is counterintuitive for an individual to be honest when asked a question that everyone intuitively knows they have an honest answer to.
Hey, well said, man. And I would assume this is still, like whether it's true or like that this was an actual interview or not. I still think this is part of his promo for his Netflix thing. And I saw some clips of it that they were promoting it, and I wasn't swayed by it at all. And so here's the thing with Kevin Hart. I think Kevin Hart's a funny human being. I think he's funny. I don't think he's a good comedian. There's a complete difference. I think I'm a pretty funny guy. I don't think, as much as I would try, I don't think I would be a good comedian. I'm a funny person. And I think Kevin Hart's a funny guy. So, and so his little hand-to-hand stuff, if you have him in a movie and he's playing like a small little role here, I don't want to see a whole movie of him. He can't carry stuff to me. But I think he is a funny dude. And but I tried watching that just some clips online, and I'm like, I'm not gonna sit down for a whole hour Netflix special of this. So if you guys watched it out there, let me know down in the comment section if you guys watched it or you guys think Kevin Hart is actually funny. Me personally, I don't think he's a good comedian. I do think he's a funny guy, but not watching it. Sorry.
A lot of people disagree with you. I can't
believe that.
Yeah.
But there are people that think he's funny. Me personally, I think he's more. It's so one-dimensional, man. His humor. I can't go for a whole hour of that. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I don't really know what comedy is right now. Personally, I'm confused as to what is comedy. So I can't even really comment on it. I know what I found funny growing up with stand-up comedy. And I know that today that brand of stand-up comedy is largely dead. So I don't know what it is. I don't know what is or is not considered comedy. And this is a bit of a sidebar to the conversation, but certain comedians who do stand-up who are pretty popular, I've had similar experiences to you in which I've watched their stuff and I don't find it funny. It might be our sensibilities. It might be it might be the time in which we came up watching comedy. And maybe there's a disconnect. It could be a generational thing. I'm not exactly sure. Because like I said, there's people who swear by Kevin Hart being funny. So it is what it is, but I hear what you're saying. I personally never found his brand of stand-up comedy to be great. But the kind of stand-up comedy that I grew up liking and thinking was funny is a brand of stand-up that he doesn't do. So unlike music, which I do think is objectively worse, I think maybe when it comes to comedy, it's just a matter of differing sensibilities. I'm not exactly sure. But I've always appreciated stand-up comedians who can weave in social commentary with their stuff and make it funny. And he's more of a self-deprecating,
right?
Laugh at me, laugh at
slapstick, fall over the chair. I don't have time for that.
His style is definitely more self-deprecating. Laugh at how dysfunctional my family is. Laugh at how short I am. Laugh at how I run away from having fights and all that kind of stuff.
That's not funny, bro.
Which clearly people think is funny. They do. I mean, people think it's funny.
I don't know, man. Y'all let me know. Am I tripping or not? Me personally, I think that there's levels to this, man, and he just ain't on that top tier. I'm sorry.
Who is though? Is my question.
Hey, man, I'll keep the top tier blank.
That's my point. My point. I feel like stand-up comedy as an art form right now is like a carcass. that is slowly decomposing on the road in a hot sunny day. That's what I think.
Damn. Hey man, it is what it. Hey, but let us know down in the comment section, guys. Who's your top tier comedian? As a side note, love to hear your thoughts. Me personally, I would probably have to do some digging. But I could think of some people, but they're not top tier. Nobody's making me fall out of chair no more.
Right,
I guess I'm getting too old, man.
Yeah, me neither. I had a few people who were like, "Bro, Joe Coy is so funny," and I tried to watch one of his specials, and I was just sitting there like, "This isn't. I'm not finding this funny." But he sells out arenas. He sells out shows. Mad people find him funny. It just I'm missing the boat on it. So comedy's in a weird space for me at the moment.
Yeah, we'll have a sidebar conversation later about comedians, but I don't think that guy's funny either. So sorry.
Hey, shouts out to Kevin Hart, man. You made it onto the channel.
Congratulations, sir.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it is indeed an honor.
I took your side this time, Kevin, but don't push your luck. All right, don't push your luck, man.